can't speak enough to Celebration Bar Review, to you as a, more than just an instructor, like it's almost life coach. It's amazing. So I would preach on the mountaintops about Celebration Bar Review until the end. So I appreciate your help.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Takers. And I am excited today to be talking to a student that I got a chance to work with leading up to the Georgia Bar Exam in February of 2022. Ethan, congratulations and welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I'm very excited.
Yeah, you said before we went on that this is something you had visualized.
Outside of passing the bar, I visualized doing this interview with you. So it's up there.
That's exciting. I hope we live up to that. The visualization is a big part of this, isn't it?
It is. It definitely is. I don't know how you want to get into it, but the entire process of the course was so foreign to what I expected it to be, but I just leaned in and visualization was a big part of it.
Let's go ahead and backtrack for our audience. You took the Georgia exam, but it was not your first time taking it in February, correct?
Yes, I took it in July previously.
Okay. And how much did you raise your score by?
I raised my score by 12 points. And I did some calculations in advance and I raised my essay score by 22 points.
Wow, that's impressive. Now, we're going to dig into some of the background here and how you did all of that. But let's go back to your first try at the bar. You didn't study with us. You got a good score, but not enough for the Georgia test, which has a pretty high threshold to pass. What did that feel like to you at that time?
It was obviously frustrating. I had a lot going on in my life personally, and I just felt like I had the tools and the skill set to get there. But as far as direction and like navigation and kind of guidance, I just could feel that was lacking. So I gave it my best my first time, but the result was the result.
And you decided that you needed to do something different. You contacted me right after the results came out. And one of the things that stood out in my mind was how determined you were to make this your last bar exam. That was really your mindset going in, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And so one of the things, there are several different tools that you use. We're going to talk about them, but one of the things that you did was that you signed up for personal coaching with me. Now, people say a lot about working with me, so be careful what you say next, but what was that process like of doing the video coaching calls?
Obviously, through my score, I think that was the single difference maker in my performance. Every student is different, but I knew going in by looking at my previous score that my writing was particularly off track, and those coaching sessions were like invaluable. You remember I was with you. I didn't miss a call. Like we were on every time, and it was great.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed it because you were really receptive to the coaching, but we were also showing you a very different way to write, weren't we?
Yes. FLA, like the amount of times that like FLA is engulfed inside of my life, like even in other writing assignments now for work and things like that. I think that your writing style is geared towards gathering points on specifically the Georgia bar exam, but I'm sure all of them. And I have to just assume that is what allowed me to pass.
Yeah, and that's a big jump in your scores and certainly a big part of that. It's a switch to go from IRAC and issue spotting to this different style of writing.
Definitely. This style, I think, allows you those grace factors that you don't factor in when you're taking the exam. Maybe some panic energy, some feeling you don't want to waste time. So maybe there's like a 2 or 3 minute lapse in judgment, but it allows you to stick to such a structure and pick up points, even if you might not know the exact code for the rule of law. It's more analytically driven, which I think is more intuitive for test takers.
And for those that don't know, Georgia gives a 45-minute essay exam, and it is a packed set of questions, right? These are not gimmies. There's a lot of calls to questions. There's a lot of material there to cover, right?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a tough exam. I think it's one of the toughest in the country. And of course, then there are the 2 performance tests. And putting all of that work together, you and I talked about your essays, your performance tests. You submitted that work to me, and then we did these one-on-one coaching calls. And it was really fun for me to watch you develop as a writer, but also to develop your sense of confidence. That really changed over the period that we were working together too, didn't it?
It definitely did. I'm assuming this is a similar story for most repeat takers. We have that chip on our shoulder. I had that chip on my shoulder. I know I studied hard. I know I was capable of doing it, but Yeah, I did have a lack of confidence and kind of carried some weight that you helped relieve. It was almost like a mixture of therapy sessions in with the substantive stuff, which was really helpful.
I'm glad we could do that. One of the tools that you use that I want to talk about is photo reading. Can you describe what the photo reading process was like for you and how you used it in your study?
So photo reading for me was a way of reading content in a manner that most of us are not used to. It's basically a way to condense voluminous content in a smaller amount of time. And I was very skeptical going into it because when you watch the video lessons and you hear about it, it sounds like magic or something. The way that it's described is, it, it seems unbelievable. But over time, I would basically photo read my outline books, specifically, I think in the evening, as you recommended. And the little details that I would retain, specifically for like the essays, it was just incredible. It was crazy.
Yeah, how many times do you think you read a subject outline as you were leading up to the exam?
Oh my gosh. I have to break it down to the minimum before every time I did an essay or a set of questions. So I probably read each outline 20, 30 plus times at a minimum.
And it took you how long to read a subject outline when you were photo?
By the time I was proficient in photo reading, it was 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does seem like magic. And then as you start to answer questions, what happens? You begin to know that, right?
Yeah, it's just recall. And that was another thing because I'm very analytical. I think too much. It's like you get scared that you just know these things without a lot of reasoning in the actual practice. Just, okay, that's A, or this is this issue, this is that. And it's just, I guess it's the process working.
It was right there. And so it was fun to watch you go from being honestly skeptical about photo reading to embracing it and using it and seeing what it was doing for you. One of the ways that you activated the photo reading material was through mind maps, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And can you describe how you used mind maps for your note taking?
Mind maps was another helpful exercise because I feel like if you're like a natural note taker like I am, which is like handwritten, the motor skills of mind mapping allowed me to take each subject and put it into the big pictures. I think in the last iteration of the bar exam, I was very memorization focused. So it's negligence. What are the four elements? Blah, 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 blah. But mind maps allowed me to visualize examples and more of the reasoning side associated with the elements, how I branched out my mind maps, because you can make it in whatever way you want, which I think was actually more conducive to learning the material opposed to just like memorizing elements.
Yeah, it's a very different style of note taking. And did you use computer generated mind maps or did you handwrite them?
I handwrote mine.
And so did you have mind maps all around the house?
Oh yeah. My mind map binders, I had like at least 10 mind map binders stuffed. I could barely close them. And it was a very helpful exercise. And I think an important thing is to not get wed to the mind maps or one particular thing. Like sometimes I'd be in the middle of a mind map, I just have to ball it up, throw it away, and create a new mind map because new information became available to me, or a new way of understanding, because it's ultimately for your benefit at the end of the day. So,
and I was really impressed. I would see the work that you were doing and we'd talk and you'd actually pull out a mind map when we were talking and say, okay, I see where this is here. Would you recommend photo reading and mind maps to people that are studying for the bar?
100%. Definitely. The proof is in the pudding, as they say. What better recommendation than passing the exam can I really give you?
I appreciate that. I want to talk a little bit about what this journey has meant to you personally. I think that sometimes we lose sight of the fact that this is such a struggle to get into law school, to get through law school, and then to pass the bar exam. What's that meant for you?
It's been everything. I think that having to be a repeat taker, sometimes the effort, the family, like strain, and my own career goals, like I kind of lost track of that by not passing the first time. And it's easy to just get caught up in stress and life issues. It's like a new outlook on life. It's okay, I'm back on track. I have a career. I'm doing what I want to do. I'm able to sustain myself. And it's starting your life really from the legal perspective, like getting my career on the right foot.
And I can't think of a time when it's been more important to have voices like yours in the bar, certainly in states like Georgia. So this is an exciting moment. Can you tell our audience a little bit about what it was like when results came out and that moment when you found out that you passed?
So I worked from home that day, and there was rumblings that the results were going to be released by noon. So Another important thing for me this time around was like, once I took the exam, I released the stress and the anxiety, which I think you helped me with. Whereas like the last time I was like constantly waiting and checking, and I did my best. I used your course, I studied, so I had to let go of it, for lack of a better word, until results came out. And I pulled it up on my phone because I saw an email from Georgia Office Bar Admissions. And once I saw the words, "we are pleased," I didn't really even read through the rest of it. Like, "we are pleased to announce," I kind of put my phone down, took a sigh of relief, and then just walked around, paced for a couple of minutes, called my mom, called different family members, and then went back and read the score and things like that. But it was definitely a milestone in my life, for sure.
Sure. That's a great moment. I'm sure your mom was incredibly thrilled.
Definitely.
So you were studying while you were working, correct?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how you manage that and your time allocation and study?
So I was studying while running a business, which is I've gathered through the program. There were a lot of other participants who either worked full-time jobs, but I had a business. And the way the program is set up, especially with elements like photo reading, it's focused time. So just because you sit in front of a computer for 10 hours or in front of a book for 10 hours, maybe in another traditional program, I feel like with celebration, you can even maximize that time in like a quarter of the time. So I was able to mold my schedule around efficient study time. And of course, studying and working is not an easy task, but it wasn't like any more difficult. It was actually easier than the last time I studied for the exam. So
How many hours would you say you studied on a weekly basis if you had to average it out?
I would say probably 20 hours, 20 to 30, I think, a week.
Yeah, and that's typically what we suggest for people. And so you had enough time, you were ready, you really took advantage of the tools that we had to offer. I know you also participated in group coaching calls, is that correct?
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit about what those were?
The group coaching calls were Zoom sessions and other sessions with multiple takers from all jurisdictions. Some were specific to mindfulness or just a weekly call. And actually, that was another very important element for me because I felt like in the previous big box program that I used, the sense of community was not really there. And I was like a lone wolf just studying on my own. Whereas these weekly updates with your staff and you, one, it kept me up to date on national bar related news that was coming out. So that even reminded me, hey, let me check back with the board of bar examiners to make sure this is okay and make sure that is okay, which I think that's an invaluable piece that you guys might not promote enough because it's like, hey, this jurisdiction is having limited spacing. Like obviously check your own jurisdiction, but those updates were helping me out a lot. And just a sense of community I got from hearing other participants talk about their life and their struggles and even their successes and their progress.
That's great. We're very proud of you and we're very excited for your success. This is the first time you and I've had a chance to talk since you got your results. And I just couldn't be more thrilled than I am for what you've done. I know how hard you worked. What advice would you give someone who's perhaps in your shoes from 6 months ago? They got their results, they aren't successful. What would you tell them today?
I would tell them to, first of all, not have an ego. It's about passing the bar at the end of the day. It's just a stepping stone. You didn't pass the last time. Let's get over that fact and focus on how you are going to pass this time. And in that same token, focus in on what your weak points were, if available, from the last iteration of the exam, because it's a numbers game. So just be good to yourself. You need to delegate your time in a manner that allows you to pick up your weak points or succeed the most. It's not the easiest thing, or else everyone in the world would be an attorney, but you need to be good to yourself and enjoy the process because you're going to look back and develop probably a lot more life skills than you thought were possible through the experience of studying. So
I think that's great advice. And certainly watching your life experience change and your entire posture about all this, except that right from the beginning, you were committed and dedicated and open to learning. And I thought that was one of the best things. When we did our coaching calls, you were always open to the suggestions and the improvements, and you incorporated them and put them into the next piece of writing. And so I just want you to know it was an absolute pleasure to work with you. If every student was as easy to work with as you were, it would be a dream really all the time. But I'm just excited to know that this is just the start of your journey, right? Passing the bar is really the starting point, not the ending point.
Yeah, and I even told you in our sessions, like I can't speak enough to Celebration Bar Review, to you as a, more than just an instructor, like it's almost life coach. It's amazing. So I would preach on the mountaintops about Celebration Bar Review until the end. So I appreciate your help.
Thank you, Ethan. We are excited for you. I hope that you'll continue to stay in touch and be with our community. I know that a lot of people who are watching this interview are going to be really excited and inspired and encouraged by your story, because it's just a great thing. And I think sometimes people forget and they start to think you can't ever pass the bar exam. And clearly you can pass even tough exams like Georgia's. So it can be done, can't it?
Yes, I can. Just follow and do what Jackson and Celebration staff say.
That's great. Hey, listen, I hope that this is what you had imagined in your brain for this moment. It's certainly what I was hoping for. And again, we are thrilled to have you as a member of the bar. Congratulations. And we'll look forward to staying in touch with you. Thanks so much for being with us today, Ethan.
Thank you.